Welcome back to Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation, Anime Review, episode number 26. 27. 27. Sorry about that. Okay, this episode we are discussing what essentially put is the 6th episode of season 2, which is also the 30th episode of the series, I Don't Want to Die. Yes, that is the name of this episode. Now, the book, as I originally said, they adapted just chapters 5 and 6. I looked it up, and I looked at it, I'm like, no, it didn't. This episode adapted 3 full chapters. They did make one cut here. The Beast Girls, since you used the last episode, they're actually kind of in chapter 4, which they have 4 through 6 anyways. They cut that out and basically put it probably for next week's episode. They did also move some lines up from later portion of the chapter a little bit earlier. There's also one scene that is changed. And aside from the one scene with the Beast Girls getting cut, mostly put a lot of stuff a cut with some minor stuff, trying to hurry stuff up. There is another scene that has a minor change where they kind of trim it down a bit. But mostly put in the case this episode, they follow the books. They follow the book pretty simply. It's a very simple, basically, what they did with this episode. A very simple adaptation. Episode with Rudy is basically doing his normal daily routine. Just exercising, and then basically see him like going to class. You see him go to the library, investigate the teleportations. And this also was Zenobia. Want to teach him more, and of course he can't exactly do much of anything. Of course, this is a bit. And of course, he's joined. First time you see the episode, he's doing the. He's joined by Fitz, who he still thinks is a guy. Like, oh, I'm not swinging that way. Like, I think he suspects possibly. Now, from a viewer perspective like me, I know this is not the name of this person is actually Saphantite. How do I know that? I read the book. That's why. Yep. So they chat for a bit, and of course, she asked basically to participate to help out with the investigation to the mass teleportations. And apparently, teleportation magic is taboo, which is strange. Now, you thinking, is this a change from the book? No. This is basically a change from the book. So, no major change here. They chat for a while, and of course, they walk. Of course, Rudius does ask Fitz about the sunglasses. Well, here's the thing. He is puzzled by the term sunglasses because that is literally what they are. Sunglasses, even though you see this person wear them at night. I'm like, how the person can see at night wearing sunglasses? That makes no fucking sense at all. It's necessary. Well, the reason why to hide this person's feminine feature. That's merely the reason to hide it. And of course, why the person always wears gloves. To hide the feminine side of this person. And of course, Zenobia tries basically tries to cast magic, doesn't work. Rudius makes a clawing block. He actually breaks it. And then of course they come with the idea of buying a slave who can basically simply be taught magic at a very young age. And of course, there's obvious hints that this is Saphantite because mentions that, oh yeah, my master taught me when I was young, and back he was 2 or 3. And it's like, from a viewer perspective, it's obviously Saphantite. Based upon our dialogue, and the person she's talking about is Rudius himself. It's like he's kind of catching on, but there is hints. It doesn't say the name per se in this episode that they actually cut out probably to basically have the shocker revelation, which probably is going to happen next week's episode. Yes, we're finally going to basically conclude the whole Fitz stuff for a bit. Oh, by the way, the whole thing of Book 9 is simply put basically related to his groin. Yeah, that's the thing about that one. So, basically, they go with Zenobia. Of course, Zenobia meets Fitz for the first time. And, of course, they go off the slave market. Now, this is, they do trim down the scene up a bit. Where it's like, oh, there's various markets. And they go to one. They possibly go inside. Of course, they just go outside. Like, Rudy's like, oh, they'll be outside. No, they're inside. Yeah, basically this whole thing in the slave mark, it's mostly a lot of trimming down, mostly for time constraints, from what I can tell, and probably because it wasn't very necessary. There is, of course, an obvious scene of a woman, a very muscular woman who was topless, and of course Fitz, obviously Seth and Ty wanted to go that big, and of course Rudy doesn't say anything about it, but yeah, it's like basically the way Fitz is talking, and I'm like, Rudius, it's Sapphire tight. Like, unless you're into light novels, you don't know about that point. I do, because I've read the light novels. I've read the book 22. Which, by the way, the next book comes out tomorrow. Yes, book 23 comes out tomorrow, which I'm probably going to get that this weekend. Yep. Let's see. So, basically, now, when they meet up with the investigating someone like a dwarf per se, they do meet possibly like one of the managers of this place. Of course, in the book, he tries to talk to Zenobia first because Zenobia thinks he's been very disrespectful to his master, aka Rudius, and of course, Rudy is telling him to calm down. Well, a lot of that was expunged here. They basically go straight to the sit-down meeting, which I do appreciate the fact they trimmed this down because it was kind of silly for him to react this way, but from an perspective, this is perfectly fine to trim down. Now, this scene is, with the exception of that early bit, this scene is mostly intact. This moment, anyways, basically where this segment where it's like, oh, looking for a dwarf, possibly 5 years old. Like, oh, we have a 6-year-old, like a child. Like, doesn't know what race. Of course, they meet up with this person, this little girl. Which, here's the big change they made from this scene. This is the only scene they changed. They just have trimmed down, but this is the only major change they made the entire episode. And in my opinion, Studio Bind, thank you for changing this, because this is kind of ridiculous in the book. In the book, this girl, they decided to have her stripped naked in front of Rudius. A 6-year-old. Rudius at this point is probably about 16. 10 years older than this girl, and this girl is stripped naked in front of him. And Zenobia and Fitz, aka Saphantite. I'm sure anybody who read this scene in the book probably thought this was a stupid idea. And my guess is somebody stupid must have saw this scene like, yeah, let's not have her get stripped. Let's basically just bring her out. Have basically, I think it's Fitz do a bit of a healing spell, basically out of her whatever she was in. And you have Rudius. Now, in the book, they do mention he does speak Beast God. Which in the anime, they don't mention that here. I'm a little surprised they cut out that particular plot point. But that's probably just cut out to avoid the surprise. So he chats with her in Beast Tongue. Where, and of course, I say the phrase, the title of the episode, I don't want to die. And of course, basically, there's a little more dialogue here in this scene. Excuse me. And there was also more people in the scene, too. Mostly some unnamed thugs who work for the manager. There is in the scene, too. In the anime, the manager brings out the girl himself. In the book, basically, it's basically a couple guys bringing her out. Which, yeah, I think this was fine. Just keep the manager here. Rudius, Fitz, and Zenobia. Keep the 4 primary players here. Cut out the 2 unnecessary characters. And yeah, this is definitely a smart move. I mean, the change, in my opinion, is a good change. I'm sure anybody who read the book probably felt this scene was basically kind of inappropriate to be in the book. But this is in the anime. The audience is a bit more wider than the light novel audience. Now, I don't know how other people felt about the scene being changed. In my honest opinion, it's fine. I am very open to this change because stripping a 6-year-old girl naked is a stupid idea. It's much less selling her slavery. Now, they do keep, there's a line in the book which they kept in the anime, the fact that she's part of a family who pay off her debt to sell her slavery, which that is from the book too, so the anime basically kept that in. So, eventually, of course, Rudius buys her. Now, of course, also, that they do kind of keep this in the anime a little bit, where Zenobia is also partial owner of this little girl too, as a slave. So, basically the way they sit at a table, which I think this is a partial change from the book, which I think in the book is a different location. Here they change it to like this cafe where you see her eating. You have Fitz sit next to her, and basically you have across from her you have Rudius and Zenobia. And of course they ask her name. She doesn't have a name. She refers herself as like the speech child of like whatever. Probably lists our parents. So he kind of call her Julius, but she's a girl. Julieta, or Julie. Yep, and of course, basically, Rudy, as he is mentioning a teacher, basically language. Okay, interesting. Yeah, there's also a scene in the book, in the anime, which they added this in of, where you have Zenobia humping a statue, butt naked. Yeah, there's also a whole thing in this episode of the figurine stuff, which I think that's mostly an additional stuff. That's a bit of expansion of what the book basically was doing. Like, I think it was there mostly as a mention. It's not like part of the actual thing. So, I definitely do think this episode was really good. And here's the thing so far. Only the second book of the season adapted so far for the season. And so far, they're doing really good. There's no major cuts here. Unlike the case of Book 7, they mostly cut all the only thing they majorly cut from the Book 7 is all the Sarah POVs and the extra chapters. Well, I think that there was one extra chapter happened for a previous episode of the previous season of the show, but I think the Sarah POVs, they might be adapted for an OVA. That's my personal guess anyways. But yeah, we're definitely going to be... my guess is, anyways, we're going to wrap up Book 8 with the very next episode, which will air next week. Now, if you're curious, how many more episodes we have left to go before we go on to the halfway point of the season? I am guessing we probably have about 5 or 6 more episodes left to go for this entire season. Well, first half anyways, before we split off here. Now, if you're really curious, how many chapters are in Book 8? There are 8. Plus there's an epilogue and a side story for Sapphire. Yeah. Do I think Jillian managed after for the season? Not sure. I have no idea. Now, the next book is longer. It is roughly 3 chapters longer per se. Yes, 3 chapters longer. So, my guess is they might... Let's see, because there's 11 chapters. So, with the next week being the wrap-up of this half of the season, my guess is that we're probably going to start... Do I think they might start adapting Book 9 next week? No, they might start adapting 2 weeks from now. How far do I think they might adapt it to? Not sure, but there's 11 chapters in this book. That there's also a stuff with Sapphire and an extra chapter for Mad Dog per se, but now how far do I think they would adapt to? My guess is they probably might get to chapter 6. Presumably anyways, though I have heard they're going to get to book 12. Though, would it be a surprise that they basically have this particular half last for 2 episodes out of 11? I'd be surprised about that. Yes, I definitely will be. So, if in fact this thing is wrapping up next week, then if you think about it, this particular book took up, if you think about it, not a lot of episodes per se. Like, this is only the 3rd episode of this very arc. Adapted this book. Yeah, it's only the 3rd episode. So, yeah, it was completely obvious that they're going to wrap up this one with the very next one. It is definite for that one. Yes, it is so obvious. The kidnapping confinement of Beast Girls. They're probably going to basically adapt the section they skipped over this episode here, probably for next week, and go through chapters 7 and 8, and maybe go through the epilogue. Maybe. But who knows, okay? But yeah, that's particularly it, particular view. Next episode of Comic Corner, it's back to One Piece. Okay, next video. Bye.